Feeling a little unsettled and stressed with the way things are in our world? Experience the peace of Jesus with Finding Peace, our 5-day devotional. Visit purposely.com to sign up. Purposely. Your life, God's purpose. Listen at purposely.com.
Jesus amazed people. No one truly expected the Son of God to be born into the world or to live life among us or to do all the things that he did. Jesus definitely amazed us more than people amazed him. Hey, this is Jen. You're listening to the Bible for Busy People. And a couple weeks ago, we talked about how Jesus was amazed at people. This week, we're talking about how Jesus amazed people. And one of the ways that he did that was his sovereignty and power over even nature. The first example we're going to look at is Matthew 8, verse 23. It says, "Then he got into the boat and his disciples followed him. Suddenly, a furious storm came up on the lake so that the waves swept over the boat. But Jesus was sleeping. The disciples went and woke him, saying, 'Lord, save us, we're going to drown.' He replied, 'You of little faith, why are you so afraid?' Then he got up and rebuked the wind and the waves, and it was completely calm. The men were amazed and said, 'What kind of man is this? Even the winds and the waves obey him.'" There's something that I noticed here that I don't think I've noticed in other readings. It says that Jesus replied to his disciples and he rebuked the wind and the waves. Those two words matter. He didn't rebuke his disciples and reply to the wind and the waves. It's the opposite. He replied to them. And I think sometimes we read this and believe that there was some shame associated with it, that Jesus was trying to make them feel bad for not having enough faith. And I don't know that I believe that that's true, especially the way that this is worded. I was looking at some commentaries on this passage, and one of the things that stuck out to me was Matthew Henry's concise commentary, which said, "They were astonished. They never saw a storm so turned at once into a perfect calm. He that can do this can do anything," which encourages confidence and comfort in him in the most stormy day, within or without. I also appreciated this note from a post from New Covenant Baptist Church. It said, "There are implications for discipleship here to be sure. We must turn to Jesus as the one to trust in all circumstances of life. But the focus of this passage remains squarely Christological." I've never heard that word before. "On who Christ is, not on what he will do for us. One who has this kind of power can be no less than God himself, worthy of worship, irrespective of when and how he chooses to use that power in our lives. Sometimes he leaves storms unstilled for good and godly ends." And that really made me think, I have moments in my life, and I'm going through a time in my life where there are challenges, there are storms, and I have questions. Sometimes I feel like I'm panicking like the disciples. And my first instinct is, Jesus, quiet the storm. Like, you can do it. Just do it. Answer these questions. Smooth it all out. Make it clear for me. And he doesn't always do that. And it's hard to trust in those moments, but I can tell you from past experience, I can look back and say, the things I thought were absolutely devastating to me at the time, Jesus walked with me through them, and good and godly things came out of them. So I want to encourage you with that today, whatever you're walking through. If you're going through something hard, sometimes Jesus doesn't take away the storm, but sometimes something good still comes from it. He can still work good through it, even if we can't see it for what it is right at the moment. Jesus has sovereignty and authority and power over the chaos. But again, this is his story, not ours. Let it remind us of who he is, and we can still take confidence in him. Now, there's another story involving water that we're going to read next. This is Matthew 14, starting in verse 22. It says, "Immediately Jesus made the disciples get into the boat and go on ahead of him to the other side while he dismissed the crowd. After he had dismissed them, he went up on a mountainside by himself to pray. Later that night, he was there alone, and the boat was already a considerable distance from land, buffeted by the waves because the wind was against it. Shortly before dawn, Jesus went out to them, walking on the lake. When the disciples saw him walking on the lake, they were terrified. 'It's a ghost,' they said, and cried out in fear. But Jesus immediately said to them, 'Take courage. It is I. Don't be afraid.' 'Lord, if it's you,' Peter replied, 'tell me to come to you on the water.' "Come," he said. Then Peter got down out of the boat, walked on the water, and came toward Jesus. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, cried out, "Lord, save me." Immediately, Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. "You of little faith," he said, "why did you doubt?" And when they climbed into the boat, the wind died down. Then those who were in the boat worshipped him, saying, "Truly, you are the Son of God." They were amazed. The words in verse 31 echo what Jesus said in Matthew 22. "You of little faith," he said, "why did you doubt?" You notice reading through the scriptures that Jesus sometimes performs the same miracle multiple times or repeats himself in some way. And sometimes, honestly, we need to be taught the same lesson over and over. I want to encourage you with this as well. Don't be discouraged if God is trying to teach you the same lesson over and over. I know something for me God keeps revealing in my heart is how I can feel competitive with other people, which I actually wrote a book about. I wrote a book about unhealthy competition and comparison. And you know what? I still struggle with it. It's still an ongoing process for me to feel like I need to keep up with other people. I want to do what they're doing. And fortunately, when I stop, when I take a step back, when I remember the things that I studied out and I learned and I even share in this book, I remember that God loves me as well. He answers my needs. He answers those core questions that I am asking when I'm looking at someone else and comparing myself to them. But again, it's something God continues to teach me. And sometimes Jesus teaches us the same lessons over and over again. And that's okay. I also want to note that it's likely that a lot of these same disciples also saw Jesus calm the storm, but maybe they needed to be reminded. Maybe they needed to be told again and shown again Jesus' sovereignty over everything, including nature. May we choose to believe in Jesus' sovereignty and be on the lookout for it. Be on the lookout for how Jesus is in charge of the situation. May we be confident in who Jesus is and has proved himself to be again and again. I'm going to leave you with another small piece of encouragement in Ephesians 1. In verses 18 to 20, it says, "I pray that the eyes of your heart may be enlightened in order that you may know the hope to which he has called you, the riches of his glorious inheritance in his holy people, and his incomparably great power for us who believe. That power is the same as the mighty strength he exerted when he raised Christ from the dead and seated him at his right hand in the heavenly realms, far above all rule and authority, power and dominion, and every name that is invoked, not only in the present age, but also in the one to come." This is the Jesus we serve, we follow, the one who intercedes for us, the one who is the exact representation of God's glory. Remember that today. Remember the Jesus who's on your side, and have a great day. I will chat with you again tomorrow.
Thank you for listening to The Bible for Busy People. If you need prayer or want to go deeper in your faith, visit our show notes. Will you take a moment to share with a friend and leave a review? It helps the Bible get into even more people's minds and hearts. Find more podcasts that will recharge you at purposely.com.
Thanks for listening. We just wanted to take a minute to let you know that just like you and your family, Purposely is also part of a family, the Krista family of ministries. Krista helps kids and teens learn and grow in their faith at King Schools and Miracle Ranch Camp. And Krista shares Jesus with people in the poorest, most remote places through World Concern. Krista Senior Living is a community of love and care, and Krista Media is a place of hope on the radio. God is changing lives through these 5 ministries, and Krista is on mission to share the good news of Jesus. To learn more, visit Krista.org.